A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Ritvika Gupta. Tonight we are focusing on young entrepreneurs and business minds as they bring fresh perspectives, innovative ideas and the drive to disrupt traditional industries. First up, in conversation with Bharat Bhalla, founder YuFoodlabs, and in the second segment, we are chatting with Abhijeet Kaji, co-founder Knya. Now, YuFoodlabs is a consumer food startup that offers a wide range of instant meal bowls. To get a sense of how it all began, I'm now joined live by Bharat Bhalla, founder of YuFoodlabs. Thank you, Bharat, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let us start from the beginning. Tell us about your journey. What was the thought process? And in fact, tell us, how did you come up with the brand name Yu? Yep, where did it all start?
Sure. Yu was conceptualized with the idea of making packaged food as close as possible to freshly prepared food. When we conceptualized this idea back in early 2021, we saw the packaged food space and understood the landscape of the packaged food industry. And we often, when we spoke to consumers, the first thing that they said is, packaged food is not fresh. It doesn't have the same aroma or the texture or the taste similar to fresh food. And we thought that it's time now to change that. That is how the concept of Yu was born. Yu was conceptualized, like I said, we are making packaged foods as close as possible to freshly prepared food using chefs. So it's chef crafted without any preservatives. We provide food in a packaged food format that has a shelf life of 12 months at room temperature. All this while ensuring that you're only using natural ingredients as far as your products are concerned. You're not using any artificial flavor enhancers as far as the product is concerned. So essentially, you're revolutionizing the packaged food space by giving consumers a better for you product that tastes as good, that still has the same convenience attached to it, but it's a far more I would say. It has a lot of goodness in it in terms of the ingredients, in terms of the processes that are involved. And that's what we've done. We've brought that to the fore. We spent 12 months in research in a small 100 square feet room. And eventually now we have a 24,000 square feet facility that we operate in Gurgaon, where we, right from chopping to mixing to cooking, then essentially to kind of freezing the food and then kind of packaging it in a format that makes it accessible to people in a packaged food without using any preservatives. That's what we do.
Bharat, can you tell us what are the specific types of products that are offered at YuFoodlabs?
So when we started in October of 2021 is when we launched. We started with pasta in a cup format. So we do that in 3 flavors, 3 cheese, peri peri and creamy tomato is how we actually started. We then moved on to halwas in a box, something that nobody really does. So we do a gajar ka halwa and a moong dal halwa in a box. In June of 2022 is when we launched our own version of cup noodles. So if you see, cup noodles traditionally has always been soupy noodles. It's something that most people have consumed in airplanes or during travel or in your college days. We've Indianized that particular product. We've given a saucy touch to it.
Right, and the processed food segment is the 4th largest segment of the Indian food industry with a market share of 15% as of 2022. What are some of the challenges faced by this particular segment and even the packaged food industry?
If you see packaged foods as a market, it's a bit infamous for the kind of ingredients that go into packaged food. We've seen that off and on, where a lot of brands get called out for putting ingredients that you and I as consumers don't recognize. I think there is a certain amount of trust deficit that is there with the consumers. So, and I say that because when we launched our product in the market, a lot of people said, you're saying 0 preservatives in this particular product, but do you really mean that? So there is a certain amount of trust deficit that exists in this particular market. For a brand like ours that has come, as with all this effort that we've brought to consumers, we often kind of deal with consumers who don't really believe that something like this can be done. So I think the very fact the quality of ingredients is one of the biggest problems as far as packaged foods in this country is concerned, and that's what we're trying to solve.
So since you belongs to the D2C industry, could you share some insights pertaining to the advantages and disadvantages faced by a D2C company?
So I think the definition of D2C is evolving on a regular basis. A lot of the brands, when we were talking about D2C, it was about direct to consumer. I think it's now about insurgent brands or challenger brands that are emerging, and how they are challenging the status quo and innovating across product categories to bring a sort of newness to the consumer, a sort of new novel product offering to the consumer, and solving customer pain points. So I think from a D2C perspective, there is as a brand like ours, we're obviously looking up to a lot of the bigger packaged food players who have made their name over the last 100 odd years doing the same thing that we are doing. So obviously there are legacy, there is nostalgia that you're fighting, there's legacy that you're kind of obviously up against. Having said that, with so many new brands coming up and the consumers accepting, and this new aspirational India that is in fact coming up, they are looking for something new, and that's what's actually helping brands like us come up and really cater to consumers by providing this kind of novel product offerings, and they are more accepting and more embracing of a product like this, of a brand like this. So I think that's very heartening to see for a new brand like ours.
Tell us then, being a brand associated with packaged goods, how do you ensure the safety of your products, and where does sustainability stand in your agenda?
So when we started out, one thing that we were very clear on as far as our packaging is concerned is that we wanted to do something different, and by different, we actually wanted to be as sustainable as we can be with our packaging. When we conceptualized our particular products, if you see a lot of the players in the packaged food segment, the packaging is largely plastic. If you see you as the packaging, we use 100% paper bowls that can be reused, which is very different compared to any of the other players in the packaged food segment. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at paper versus plastic, paper often is more difficult to transport, but we've still persisted with paper, and we use 100% food grade paper in our packaging as far as our products are concerned. And the second very important aspect is that we are also using biodegradable forks. So instead of using plastic forks or plastic spoons, we've actually got custom made molds for us that are biodegradable, made out of cornstarch. So anything that we can do as a brand to reduce the carbon footprint, we do. So with this, we're kind of doing different things as far as packaging is concerned.
So last year you raised 20 crore rupees in a Series A funding. You have Hardik Pandya as your brand ambassador. So it's really been quite a journey for you. Taking cues from your experience, can you share some tips to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to enter this market?
So I think the one thing that I'd like to say is that there is absolutely no substitute to hard work and persistence. I think one has to be at it. Me and my co-founder, we've been on the corporate side of things for a little over 15 years each before entering into entrepreneurship. So we've seen one side, and then we're kind of doing this. It's actually far more rewarding to do entrepreneurship, I would say, to the younger generation of this country, and it's heartening to see a lot of people also taking on the mantle for this new India. So I would just say that even though it's there is a lot of struggle in the beginning, there is a lot of persistence that one needs to have, there is light that is going to be there at the end of the tunnel, and it's a very rewarding experience. So I would encourage the youth of this country to take the plunge when they have a good idea. As long as it's a good target addressable market, one should take the plunge and really be at it, and there is, like I said, you have to be at it, and there is no substitution for any hard work.
Finally, before I let you go, the theme for our show this season is Ideas for New India. Tell us some of your big ideas that you think will shape the food industry.
So we're a Make in India brand. We're a 100% Make in India brand. We'll always be a Make in India brand. The one thing that we are doing is to take India global. We're a Make in India brand, but for the world. As a young brand that is only 18 months old, today it's heartening to see that we're taking Indian spices, flavors to the world, and the world accepting them. We now export our products to South Africa, to Singapore, US. We've started UK in a very small manner. We're going to start Australia now. But the great thing, I'll tell you, is that it's not only Indians abroad who are consuming this particular product. The love that a product like this that has been made in India but for the world, I think is a great theme for this next decade, because of the manufacturing prowess that this country possesses, and with the kind of policies that are there by this government. I think it's very, very supportive in terms of PLIs and other SOPs that are given to businesses that are manufacturing in India. So I think Make in India for the world.
Thank you, Bharat. Lovely talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
On that note, it's time for a quick break here. When we return, we'll put a spotlight on the apparel industry. But it's not just any regular apparel, it's medical apparel. More on that soon. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. In conversation now with Knya, a venture established by a Mumbai-based couple making eco-friendly recycled polyester scrub suits for doctors. Joining me live is Abhijeet Kaji, co-founder Knya. So you, along with your partner Vanchika, you guys are doing something really unique. So I'm very curious to understand what was the initial idea and motivation behind the brand Knya. Take us through the journey.
So Knya was founded around a year and a half, 2 years back. Knya comes from the word Panch Kanya, which is the goddess of courage. And we were like, what better profession to describe courage than medical professionals? Started by my wife and myself in 2021. Vanchika comes from a background of deep textiles, and I have an MBA and primarily a background in private equity. The pandemic hit, we all kind of realized the importance of medical professions in our community, more so the hardships that they really face, right? 2 statistics that really stood out to Vanchika and me during the pandemic. One is that the life expectancy of doctors is 59, the life expectancy of non-doctors is 71. That statistic really blew our mind. In addition, another statistic that really kind of came up to us was that 75% of doctors or nurses get attacked at least once in their professional career. Now, if you look at any other profession, this really doesn't sound right. And that's when we realized there's an opportunity for us to create a brand to celebrate medical professionals, to focus on them so they can focus on patients, like people like you and me, and to alleviate their pain and save lives. So in some sense, Knya is a brand to protect the protectors with the most functional apparel, like performance apparel, like scrubs, lab coat aprons that they wear day to day. The average young doctor is at the hospital for almost 16 to 18 hours a day, wearing the same clothes in really tough conditions. So that's when Knya scrubs and Knya lab coats are there to kind of be with them as they perform some of the most important surgeries to save lives.
So Abhijeet, from what I've read, you have a whole variety of scrubs, lab coats, accessories. Tell us more about your product offerings.
So Knya, you're absolutely right, focuses on medical professionals. There are about 80 lakh medical professionals in this country, right? A small percentage of what it should be, right? You're absolutely right, it's significantly smaller. But our focus is very simple. As an entrepreneur and as a former investor, I think we've realized that focus in business is very important. So we are focused on just medical professionals, on providing them with the most comfortable, the most functional, and the most fashionable medical apparel. We want to remain focused because we feel with focus comes creating trust, creating even better products, using research, R&D, science, technology to keep improving our fabric technology to reach the deepest part of India and all doctors and nurses across the country. So we hope to continue being focused in this space.
On that note, tell us how important is sustainability in Knya's agenda, and what are the strategies have you employed to achieve your sustainability goals?
So we have two types of fabric that we really or two types of products. One is the classic and one is the EcoFlex. Our EcoFlex product, which in some sense our marquee product, is made out of recycled PET bottles, ocean waste PET bottles. So every medical scrub has 6 reused PET bottles. We feel that in the early 2000s, it was said that every business needs to be a technology business. If you're not a technology business, you will not succeed. We believe that in 2020 onwards, if every business is not a sustainable business, we need to rethink about it. The problem on hands with regard to sustainability, with regard to the environment, is our problem. It's not our children's, it's not our grandchildren, it is our problem. If we do not take it into our hands, we are going to face the circumstances. And I feel that as an apparel founder, I think it's very, very important for us to take this into our supply chain, to use recycled materials, to do our bit to support the customer through their sustainable journey.
So last year, you also raised seed funding from DSG Consumer Partners. Tell us a bit about that, and how do you think the funding landscape has evolved over the years?
So Knya is a company that's backed by investors, institutional investors, DSG Consumer Partners, along with a couple of angels like the promoters from Narayana Health and Cipla have kind of backed us, and we're very lucky to have their support. But we're a profitable and sustainably growing company, and the funding environment has been challenging for a lot of founders. But I do believe that if you are creating a solid business with good cash flows and really are building the fundamentals of the business, now is the best time to be an entrepreneur. It's absolutely the best time to be an entrepreneur, because that you're getting noticed significantly by a lot of investors, and when your back is to the wall and resources, I think, scarce, I think that is when entrepreneurs solve the most difficult problems. And statistically as well, if you look at the last 45, 50 years, when your back is to the wall, an entrepreneur has always solved the best problems. The best companies have come out in times of downturns.
Abhijeet, Knya targets a very specific audience, right? Does that make your job harder because you have to ensure that you consistently live up to this niche group? And do you plan to expand your consumer base in the future?
So traditionally, D2C is direct to consumer, which basically means you are kind of going directly to the consumer and there are no intermediaries in between. In some sense, I think that term is a little bit kind of misused. I think I prefer the term insurgent brand, which are new brands coming in 2023, where you're kind of entering a space which another kind of bigger player may have already been there, or maybe a new category altogether. We fundamentally look at trust, right? To building a trustful relationship with the consumer. And that can be done in a number of ways. One is creating a phenomenal product, making a product that's better than that's available in the market. Second is being operationally very efficient, delivering your products on time, being available to the customer, supporting them through their journey, hand-holding them in returns, exchanges, the entire process. Number 3, I think, is content. And this is something that Knya has done particularly well in. We have around 2.5 lakh subscribers on YouTube. We get an organic, roughly 4 to 5 crore organic views every month. And we feel content is an incredible way to create trust to the consumer. Smaller brands like Knya do not have the resources to kind of do TV ads or billboards, right? So modern content distribution channels like the social media channels provide this feature for us to kind of reach our consumer. And I think these are particularly aspects which probably would not have been there maybe a decade ago for us to kind of leverage. I think it's never been easier to start a business today, but it's never been harder to create a sustainable brand. Because of the competition and the easiness to start a business, the number of brands that are coming up are significant. So it is our duty as founders to kind of create that trust with the consumer to stand out from the noise. Again, great product, operational efficiency, and great content.
Finally, would you have any tips for all the entrepreneurs watching our show today?
So I think the first is to start, right? I think it's just, you got to start. If you don't start, you really will not move on. I think second is to just show up every day. I think consistency in some sense is the biggest moat that any entrepreneur can have. If you show up every day, you will be fine. but sometimes more often than not, that we as founders, like the problems are galore, right? There's hiring and funding and operational and supply chain, and the problems just continue, right? But I think if you can kind of just show up consistently, I think it's a significant moat. And finally, persistence. Keep reaching out to your customers, keep reaching out to your potential employees, keep reaching out to stakeholders across the board, and you will be fine.
So what would you say are some of the big ideas or trends that are going to rejig the apparel industry in the coming years?
So I think the ideas for India, I think a couple which have been spoken about quite a lot, is that one is vernacular, right? I think India is basically 28 countries in one country, right? So I think people often forget that, and many Indians kind of speak different languages. So I think one is to reach vernacular India. Second is to understand the geographical nuance that we have with regard to weather, with regard to general landscape, needs, uses. That's number two. And number three is that you sometimes feel that a particular market is small, but you got to remember that India is growing at a faster rate than most countries, right? So a small market today may not be a smaller market maybe 4 or 5 years from now. So kind of be open-minded in terms of the opportunity and the way you think about problem solving as well.
Thank you, Abhijeet. Good chatting with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. Thank you and goodbye.